Quick start in Plotdrive using CoWriter. Thank you all for joining. We're going to get started in a moment or two. We're going to let people join. Yep. I made it a little bit easier. Got some feedback from the first class that we're ironing out some of the paper cuts, and uh, we had a waiting room, so we disabled the waiting room, so people will feel free to join at any time. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get my screen set up. And I hope, so as we're all getting situated here, let me go. Okay. Can people see my Plotdrive screen right now that I'm sharing? Okay, great. Yes, yes. Hey, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you all are doing well. Show of hands as more people join. How many people were able to catch the Intro to Plotdrive Basics 1 training session that we gave 2 days ago? Yep, on YouTube. Awesome. Was that helpful? I hope it was helpful. Yes, live. Okay, great. Fantastic. Super glad to hear. As we go into our weekends, hopefully we're writing this weekend, or we're taking time to recharge, or we're working on our projects. Okay, I'm going to get started in like a minute. The name of this session, what we're going to learn and focus on is understanding what CoWriter is in Plotdrive. CoWriter is one of our most powerful features in Plotdrive. We're going to understand the buttons and familiarize ourselves with how it works. And then we're going to watch, you can ask questions and follow along as I kind of show you how I'm going to build a romance novel from scratch. We're going to brainstorm and refine components using CoWriter to get us started to building the essential, what we call foundational story elements for writing a book. So we might not get through all of that today, but by the end of this, you should have a really good idea of how to use CoWriter and get inspired for the things you can use it for in your own projects. So I'm really excited about that. Michael says the Q&A in chat was really good. I'm thinking the session is more what I was thinking that one would be. Okay, cool. So let me take a sip of coffee because it's 8 a.m. here in LA, and let's get going. Okay, cool. Hope everyone has a beverage of choice too, coffee or tea or water, etc. All right, so I'm going to create a new project. So we know that this is the Plotdrive products dashboard, and at the top right, I'm going to create a new project for this session, and I'm going to call it Quick Start using CoWriter. I'm going to create this project, and I'm going to hop into it. And I'm going to keep an eye on chat as I go. I'm going to do my best as possible to keep an eye on it on my second monitor here. So if you do have a question, if you want me to cover something again, feel free to ask that. Like, I'm happy to take time and answer your questions. Okay, so we're inside our Plotdrive workspace, and we're going to talk about CoWriter. So CoWriter is one of our most powerful AI features of the platform. And what we need to understand first is, where is it? CoWriter is located at the bottom right. I'm on desktop right now in Chrome, and it's located at the bottom right of my window, my workspace here. If I hover over it with my mouse, I can see CoWriter. I can left click it to open it, and you'll see it'll expand the window from the right. And it has this greeting message. Hey, I'm your CoWriter, here to help you turn ideas into clear, finished writing, books, essays, scripts, anything. And it gives you examples of what you can try saying. So let me ask you first, and you can type in chat, like, how many of us are familiar here with like what an agent is? Maybe you've heard it in other fields like Manus, like Claude Code. Um, yes, yes. Okay, a couple of people. Agent is like a helper. Yeah, it's a good way of thinking about it. So when we initially started, familiar somewhat. Okay, cool. So when ChatGPT initially came out, it started as just a chatbot. Like we could type questions in and we could get answers back. That was one of the simplest forms of how we could interact with AI at the beginning of this sort of technological revolution. What the next iteration of that, a step or multiple steps above that, is what's called an agent. And co-writer here is an example of an agent. So one way I can describe this to you is imagine having like a writing assistant inside the room with you that's available at any time. We can, to the writing assistant, we can ask or instruct that assistant to do things for us inside our Plotdrive project to different degrees of scope. We can ask this assistant to brainstorm. We could ask it to check our story details. We can ask it to do editing based on our set of editing rules. We can ask it to summarize chapters. We could even ask it to do more marketing tasks that some of us writing folks maybe tend to shy away from or don't give us a lot of energy or joy throughout the writing week. We can ask it to draft the newsletters. Our writing community has a various multitude of ways, and no way is right or wrong. This is just a way I'm going to show you of how to use Co-Writer to turbocharge your workflow. Because it's available at any time you need it, you don't need to wait for your friend to call on the phone and say, hey, I have this developmental editing idea for a book. What do you think? Co-Writer is available to brainstorm alongside you. So Macaroni is asking how is that advantageous to buttons we have in Plotdrive? That is a great question. I'm going to cover buttons in another training session altogether. We call those tools. For those who are not familiar with what Macaroni is referencing, this is another AI feature in our in Plotdrive that can be used to complement Co-Writer or as a completely other workflow for building out your book. We have writers who choose the tools that fit their workflow the best for them. So we have writers who are only using Co-Writer, this window agent, to work and generate the structure for their novels. We have other people who are using another set of features called tools, which was previously called buttons, which I will cover in another video. But just to answer that really quickly. But yeah, it's a great question, and thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so covered like an agent is like a writing assistant that's available to help you. And what an agent can do. So it's okay. I'll just take a second to clarify my answer to Macaroni in chat. So they're slightly different in terms of costs and in terms of use. So the tools, the buttons can be used as like a single use, like very surgical precision tool for editing. And again, I'm gonna cover this because you brought it up. I think it's important to cover in another session just on tools and how to create them and how to use them in writing. I, for example, in my workflow, use them for editing, for laser precision. I'll use the Fix-It tool rather than using Co-Writer. But for just getting set up for the basics, I'm going to focus on Co-Writer here too. Yes, the cost is different as well. Um, I think the tools might be slightly less expensive in terms of cost. Um, but yeah, let me go forward in the co-writer, and I'll make a note to create a topic about that. I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, so so how does co-writer work? So here's co-writer as a window. It can understand your request. It looks at the context of what we're sending it. It chooses a tool to help, and then it starts getting to work. Okay, so the easiest thing to do, so let's go over the buttons of co-writer. So right here I have a type message window. This is how we interface with co-writers. I can type into here like, hi co-writer. um, and we can send instructions there. So for example, I can say, help me brainstorm 10 premises for a romance novel. I have this idea that it's about a firefighter falling in love with a reclusive Hollywood author. And so this is from the top of my head. I had this idea yesterday. I'm just gonna kind of riff with it. Um, I don't know like everything about it, all the details, but that's the joy and the discovery of using co-writer is it's gonna kind of help me get me unblocked here. In love with a reclusive Hollywood author. I think there should be a trope of grumpy sunshine in it, a like super optimistic firefighter, and a grumpy author. Okay, and I'm gonna send. So here, if I hover over this arrow button pointing up, this is the send message button. This will send the message to co-writer. In addition to typing it, I could also have chosen to click the start recording. So it can take in a microphone input, which is what a lot of people are actually using today.
Damn.
Is you can set this, press start recording. It will ask for the microphone input in your browser. You can select the microphone that you use typically, and you can start speaking because I often find so it's like talking to someone in the room. And I often find for me personally, it's easier if I can just speak my thoughts naturally to co-writer versus kind of sitting there and thinking. But again, everyone has their own preference. Like neither of these is right or wrong. For me personally, sometimes I do use the microphone and I find it that I can just speak as much detail into existence about my request, and the more a co-writer can understand my request, I often over communicate my instructions. I find the better response co-writer will give back to me that's closer to my initial vision. And so let's send this message. So I can either using the left mouse click the up arrow, or I can press enter on my keyboard, which will send the message to co-writer. So now we can see co-writer is working. We'll see co-writer's response stream into the window. And let's go ahead and just read this real quick and see after it's done, we can see it's responding here. And if at any time it's too verbose and I just want to stop it, I can click this stop co-writer button here and it will stop the stream. Okay, so co-writer's finished its first message to us. So let's go ahead and I'm going to read it out loud a little bit for everyone here. It says, what a fun setup. Grumpy Sunshine dynamic works beautifully. The firefighter's open community focus, world crashing into the author's carefully guarded solitude has so much natural tension to play with. Okay, here are 10 premises. So these 10 premises are essentially summaries of what the book could be about. And now it's my job as sort of the captain of the book to go in and sort of think about which of these do I like, which of these do I want to explore. None of these are right or wrong, but sometimes I often use this prompt of asking co-writer for 10 things, 10 ideas, so that I can start wide and get a wide variety of ideas for how to start the project. And then I can say, it's sometimes easier to be like, I don't like this one, I don't like this one, and tell co-writer which ones I don't like. So let's skim right now. It says one says the burning page, a relentlessly cheerful firefighter responds to kitchen fire at the Hollywood Hills home of a famously reclusive thriller author when the damage forces her to temporarily relocate into the firefighter's neighboring rental. He appoints himself her unofficial welcome committee. She just wants to finish her overdue manuscript in peace. That's kind of okay. There's things that interest me about one. And now I'm pulling from just my own experiences, my own thoughts, the books that I read. It's inspiring me. And there are some things that I hadn't thought of before here where she relocates. I'm kind of stream of consciousness, how I'm thinking about and how I build this out as we go to the session. I do like the idea of her relocating from her sort of walled garden into somewhere else because it can create interesting situations for a character, and forcing a character potentially into a pressure cooker type of situation could reveal interesting things about that character that might be interesting for the reader to follow along in that character's journey. I'm just going to skim for a little bit. Fan mail number 4. For years, a firefighter has anonymously written letters to his favorite reclusive author telling her how dark, brooding novels helped him through hard times. When a station fundraiser lands him at her front door selling raffle tickets, he realizes he's been writing love letters to the woman he's about to meet for the first time. Okay, so some of these are actually kind of cool concepts. Let's say I'm a type of author who just likes to keep all of the things that co-writer is telling me. That's totally fine. What we could do is, let's see. So I can go back to my left side of my workspace. I can click create new document, and I can call this just like brainstorming. And I can click into the brainstorming document. I can go back to co-writer's response. And if I use the left mouse and hover over the response, we'll see this copy icon at the bottom of the response. I can just click that once, come back to my brainstorming document. I can drop it in, paste. So I'm on Windows, Control V, or I believe that's Command V on a Mac. And I just copy the message so I keep it. Sometimes it's nice to do that, but I can delete this and edit out some things. I can just call these potential premises. And now you'll notice right now at the bottom of the co-writer window, I'm in ask mode. Ask mode is the easiest, is the first mode that I usually teach. Ask mode, if you hover over it, you'll get a description of what it can do. So co-writer can brainstorm ideas, which is what we're doing right now. And it will only, it's in ask mode is like the safest mode for your project, meaning that the co-writer's responses will only live in this chat window to the right. And one thing I forgot to mention, if at any point you want to close the co-writer window and reopen it, you can do so. I think I need to maybe resize my screen for a second. Let's see here. It's off. Sorry. Give me one sec. Give me one second. There should be I think my screen is just sized too big. To the right of this export chat button, there's a minus button. Let's see if I can just rename this to brainstorming. Oh, there we go. We can see it. It's just the name of the chat's too big. Okay, this minus button. And if I close this, if I click this minus button, it will minimize or get rid of the co-writer window, but I can always bring it back by tapping clicking at the icon at the bottom right of my workspace. I just wanted to make sure I covered that because I believe I forgot that part. Okay, so we're in ask mode. Again, ask mode is the safest mode because co-writer's responses only exist between you and co-writer in this chat window here. Now, let's just go over the buttons, and then I'm going to show you another even more powerful mode that co-writer has called agent mode. So right now we're in is just more familiar with like a chat GPT style interface. You give it a question, it gives you a response back. I can go back and forth and I can refine it. I can refine these ideas further. I can tell co-writer, I like number one. However, I didn't think of her as a thriller author. I thought of her as maybe a romance author, maybe as a mystery author. Mystery is kind of interesting to me. Let's see. So let's just cover some of the buttons to familiarize ourselves with the interface for co-writer. So at the top here, I have the name of the chat, the conversation with co-writer. I renamed it to brainstorming. I can rename that at any time by either clicking the name, and I see these drop-down options for rename or delete. I can do it like that. I can also click the three dots to the right of the name. Over here, I have a start new chat. So if I click this, it clears the entire conversation that I was having with co-writer, and it creates a new clean chat window. So imagine in ChatGPT, you might have dozens of different chats for different reasons. You could have one for brainstorming, you could have one for world building, you could have one just for title idea rifting. That's a way to sort of clear the context window and also start a new chat so you can have your threads segmented that way. And over here, this clock icon is the chat history. So if we wanted to go back to our brainstorming section, we could go to the brainstorming one right here. So if you see the chat history, if I hover over any of these chats, I have a three dots, this three dots icon right here. And if I use the left mouse click, I can rename it and delete it. So we'll just go back into the brainstorming chat for now. The last two icons over here, if I hover over it, I can copy the entire chat, which is kind of like what we did before. If I just wanted to sort of save things to a document, just so I had those ideas and I wanted to come back to it, creating that like wide space for kind of pulling ideas if I ever need them. And then over here, I've got this button for exporting chat. It will export the chat, I believe, as like a TXT or an MD file in case you need it for whatever reason. So that covers the buttons up at the top. Now we're going to look at agent mode, and then I'm going to talk about credits real quick. So before, when we were brainstorming ideas, I was in agent mode. And I'm going to, just for the sake of this, I'm going to create a new document. Actually, I'm going to show off agent mode right now. Okay, what agent mode does is it'll take in our set of instructions. It'll figure out what our intent is. It will try to pick the right tool, and then it will try to go off and do that request for us. So what can co-writer do? Co-writer can do a lot of things. The easiest way to get a sense of what co-writer can do is actually just ask co-writer, be like, what tools do you currently possess? Okay, so co-writer can do everything that it's listing right now. Co-writer can do. I'll probably cover another video on just going through these. We'll probably break it down because there's co-writer editing tools, there's co-writer drafting tools. Actually, let me switch to agent mode. I'll just say, okay, I've switched to agent mode. What tools do you possess in agent mode? So agent mode is more powerful between ask and agent. So now we can see everything that agent mode has. So what agent mode can do is it can actually make changes across your project. And the changes that it can make, it can call some of these tools based on your requests. It will figure out which one is the most appropriate, and it will do it will execute your request. So for example, it has read content, read chapter, it has edit content, it has a find and replace tool, it has a create document tool, it has an add comment tool, a resolve comment tool. Um, it has a, let's see, a reply to comment tool. It has a red line mode where you can mark up your document with suggestions and add comments. It is really powerful, and we can go in depth on that more in another video. But what I want to show off right now is like a simple instruction that I can say to co-writers is, I'm going to say, I like the first premise, the burning page. Maybe she's a mystery author, and she relocates from her walled garden mansion into an apartment complex where the firefighter also lives or lives nearby. Okay, so here's the magic. Let's create a new document called premise, and add premise one, but with my new suggestions to that document. So you can see I'm kind of overly verbose and overly explaining. I'm specifying, let's create a document, let's call it premise. Let's take the initial premise, but add my new ideas and mix and replace the thriller with the mystery novel for that character. Now I'm going to hit send, and we're going to watch what co-writer in agent mode is doing. So co-writer is going to say, I'll create the premise document now and add the refined premise to it. It's created a document called premise. So let's look at the left sidebar of our workspace here, and we can see that my hands are off the keyboard, but it's working, and it's created this document called premise. And now let's look at co-writer window and what it's doing. It's saying it's writing, it's ready. It worked fast today. So, and it's printing out a summary of what it just did for me. So it said, I've created the premise document and added a fully fleshed out version of the burning page, incorporating your updates, the mystery author angle, the walled mansion, and the apartment complex relocation. Cool. Well, it says it created the document here in premise. So what I can do is I can hover my mouse actually over this document, and I can left click here, and it will navigate me to that document, because before we were looking at brainstorming document, but I want to go see what it created. Okay, now let's see. It says the burning page, when a kitchen fire reduces celebrated mystery author Vivian Crane's beloved walled garden mansion's smoke and scaffolding. It doesn't just steal her home, strips away the carefully constructed silence she spent a decade hiding inside. This is kind of what we call like tickling the imagination. I wanted something that could touch on the LA wildfires, but it wasn't overly, because it's so new, I didn't want to hit anyone over the head with it. Living in LA myself. So this is cool. Like, it might not be the perfect premise, but it is definitely a good point to start with after we just brainstormed 10 and we refined a little bit. Now, the current generation is in blue. That means it's still pending. It hasn't actually been committed to the document yet. We want to make sure we add this to the document. There's a couple of ways to do that. In the co-writer window, you'll see at the bottom an accept all and a reject all button. So I could click the accept all, and what that will do is it will remove the blue and it will commit it to the document, meaning it will be, this is currently like a pending state, but the safest state is you just want to accept it, and then it will be committed to the document as words. I can also, oh, sorry, I'm checking the chat. Macaroni said, like that you have explanation what these three different things do in the dialog panel. Ask support agent. Yep. At any point, just checking the chat here. At any point, if you need sort of a quick explanation of the different modes that co-writer can do, You can see my mouse. I'm going to the bottom of the co-writer screen here. And if I just hover my left mouse over, there'll be a sort of dialog that pops up that says chat mode selector. It will give you very quick, brief explanation of what each mode can do. So yeah, thanks for calling that out. Okay, so I have different operations that I can do on this generated text. Before we commit it to the document, I can just skim it over and I can go directly into the text and I can delete things. Like if I organize it building barbecues with evangelical enthusiasm, that's cool. I could say organizes building barbecues, seems constitutionally incapable of respecting closed door. Vivian writes darkness for a living. She understands locked rooms, buried secrets, and the elegant safety of walls. Okay, so I can make changes here. Like I can just delete words. I can add words. It's still pending though. So at the top here, we have these three options: accept, reject, and rerun. Accept will commit the words to the document. It will remove the blue, and that'll mean like we're good, we're safe. That's cool. Like we've chosen to accept this generation. Reject will mean like no. It will remove the entire generation from the page. And rerun is like the AI will just completely start our set of instructions over again. So the set of instructions, I like the premise, but let's create a new document called premise and add premise one. It will completely rerun that set of instructions, but potentially with a different flavor, with a different variation of the response. So it might change the character names, it might change the barbecues to sort of birthday celebrations. It might change the way it's described her type of writing, this character's writing style. We call this rerun. We call this re-rolling. You could do this 10 times. You could do this once. But in this case, I'm just going to accept the words to the document. I'm just going to click accept, and we're going to see what happens here. Okay, the burning page. Cool. So it's committed to the document. So now I've got a premise, which is awesome. And now if I were to build this further out, so Dennis is asking, what AI platform is the app built on? So Plotdrive is like other writing apps. It's kind of like a wrapper, meaning that we allow you to portal in to different AI engines or different AI platforms like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Google Gemini, and thousands of other models. So really, it's sort of I want to say all of them. It's not sort of built on one or the other. And I will do another training session probably next week covering just AI and AI models, AI selections, and all the various options that are available for you in this platform. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, you can sort of in another section I'll cover this window, which is super important for your model selection. And you can see here just quickly dropping down. We on the simplest, like the most basic level, we kind of offer. You can see Anthropic, ChatGPT, the OpenAI, the Google Gemini models. However, the more advanced authors are very dialed in and very precise about which models they use, and they're most likely on an advanced configuration, which again I'll cover in another video. But like just to give you a sneak peek, the advanced are probably connected to like hundreds, if not thousands, of models, and they're choosing a specific model that fits because they like the literary style, or they like for some authors it can support handling steamy or spicy content. For others it has larger context windows. That's some of the things that they're thinking about. The easiest way I think of it is like ice cream flavors. There's like thousands of different ice cream flavors, and each one is kind of interesting to try out on its own. Authors who are very experienced in this world are pretty opinionated about the models that they select. But for basics right now, what we just produced, for example, just to give a little bit more explanation, is using the model Claude 4.6 Sonnet. So I like 4.6 Sonnet. I think there might be others here who would back me on that. But yeah, Claude 4.6 Sonnet is pretty good, and we offer that from out of the box with um, the literary cadence. Yeah, there's a literary cadence. That's a nice way of putting it. There's like a lit with Claude 4.6 Sonnet model, we're getting a little bit advanced in terms of like our own taste on the model selection right now. But I agree with Macaroni. It's the literary cadence of 4.6 is a nice place to start, I think, if you're starting out using like an AI writing tool. Um, yeah, very good question. Like I'm glad you brought that up. So we're we're a little bit over, but what I would continue doing here is really I'm just gonna the core. I would create a folder and I would call it like story foundations. I would move premise into it. At the very minimum, I think the core that story foundations that you need a premise, you need characters, and you need an outline. And if you have those three elements, you can begin to really start writing and start chapter one. Again, everyone's coming from a different writing workflow. Everyone has different sort of thoughts around here. I'm just providing one that I think works well using Plotdrive. And the more context that co-writer has about your story, and I think a good starting place for that context is using co-writer to brainstorm and refine these story foundation elements, which I'll create right here, just really quick. I'll create these documents. I've got characters and I've got an outline. If I have those three things and I provide them as context to co-writer, that is a really good spot to be in because the more context you have, the better response you will get in return. And that's the part of the name of the game is providing the best context that we can. Plotdrive Macaroni saying Plotdrive basic models can be updated more often to the latest ones. Yeah. We aim when the models come out, we aim to add those as quickly as we can. Sometimes it takes 24 to 48 hours because there's different not to get too into the weeds on this, but like they the big companies they change their like parameters and terminology in the APIs. So sometimes when we think it's easy and it's like temperature, it's like they've arbitrarily changed the name of it to something else. So we it takes a little bit of time to match that, but yeah. How is co-writer different from ChatGPT? Great question. So co-writer is different from ChatGPT in that uh, well, co-writer is built into Plotdrive, so it's a different interface. When I think of ChatGPT, I typically think of it as still as a chat bot. I honestly don't use ChatGPT uh, that often anymore. I'm typically using Plotdrive. Co-writer has the tools that have been tried and tested by author communities. So again, those tools that we ask co-writer to list out right here. These features, to the best of my knowledge, ChatGPT doesn't offer, like our editing comments or like redlining mode, where the ability to mark up a document in red as sort of a sophisticated editor, creating documents and moving those documents, reordering those documents, and asking the agent to do that. Um, I don't think they they support. And I would also say the difference is the modes. We offer a support mode too. So co-writer has the knowledge of how our system works. And if anytime you have a question, you can switch to that support mode and it can help you troubleshoot your way on the platform. Um, I guess that's what I've been showing. I use ChatGPT a lot so far. I can do everything that's been shown. Yeah, I mean, if ChatGPT is working for you, by all means. Um, we believe that providing access to hundreds or thousands of models on Plotdrive is a big differentiator. We designed this interface in part with authors who work um, in familiar interface that is designed like a document, but everyone has their own different their taste and their style. So you're welcome to um, yeah, you're welcome to use whatever supports your writing workflow. Let's see. I'll answer a couple of questions and then we'll kind of wrap this up. Hopefully this was helpful as like a basics intro to co-writer. Um, do you say we create our own tools? For example, I have extensive editing process I want to edit that is specific to my current project. That is interesting. Celine, I'd love to talk to you. If you could send me an email at scott@plotdrive.com. I'd love to understand more about your journey as an author, where you're at, and see how we could potentially support that. I want to also understand more about what you mean, write our own tools. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, can the agent write alongside you or fill in gaps? Yes, the agent can fill in gaps. The agent can write alongside you too. Like uh if I'm working on a character's document here and then I tell it like um give me a romancing the beat outline in a new document inside the story foundations folder. Romancing the beat template. Then I can go here, and if I'm working in this document, like if I'm just saying like, okay, Eve is a character, Hank's a character, while I'm working in this document, co-writer is going off into that romancing the beat document and working there for me. Let's see. I think you said you'd explain the credit system. Also, these sessions are great. It's something I wanted a long time. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. Oh yeah, real quick, I will touch on the credits. So everything I've sent to co-writer, so I'm going to stop this generation for a second. Everything I send to co-writer, it costs credits. And your subscription to Plotdrive, if we take a look at the Plotdrive landing page here, comes with a set of monthly credits that renew every month. Uh, and they, let's see. So on the Pro plan, it comes with 20,000 credits. Credits are used to, our AI features cost AI credits. Now you can see how much each operation you send to co-writer costs in credits very easily through by going down to the bottom of this window in co-writer and clicking the credits pop-up. Here I can see how many credits are remaining. I can also see my credits history, and I can see how many credits the operation cost. So I can see the last one cost 34 credits, but the one before it, we've implemented a system where if you stop a message from sending, it will actually refund you the credits. We are always working on how to improve the efficiency of credits use. This is the advanced authors, they use their API keys, but for simplicity, we have this credit system. So you can see here as I scroll down, each operation I send, co-writer charges credits. I have these credits per month. One trick if you're trying to manage your credits here is that the amount of context you send to co-writer matters. So let's see. By context, I mean how big's your chat message window, and also how many documents you're sending and how big those documents are. So we can see here, if I click on the AI context window, I can see the documents that I'm sending to co-writer, and I'm sending them to co-writer, which we'll also cover in another video about context management, that I'm signaling to co-writer, hey, I want you to see these documents. These documents are important context for your response. And let's see, what else can I show? If I hover over the AI context window with my left mouse, let's see if I can get it. So it's saying what it estimates the next set of instructions I send to co-writer will cost me. So that's another way to kind of estimate it before I send. And then if I want to, I can choose to send less information to co-writer. That way, let's see. And at any point, if you do run out of credits before the monthly refresh occurs, there's various opportunities to get credits. One is by attending these live sessions. We will, at the end of the session, at the end of the day, I will go into your account and then add 1,000 credits as add-on. But you can also, if you're in a pinch, purchase a credit add-on pack here by going to the buy more. And we offer various credit purchase pack options depending on your budget. So let's see. Do the credits apply to the prompt or execution of the prompt too? The credits apply to that is a good question. I believe it applies to, let's see here. So it's saying here that it's made up of the context documents and it's made up of the chat history. Those are the two primary drivers of the credit, of the credit costs. It is possible that the length of the prompt could have an impact, but not as greatly as those two other things that I mentioned, the context documents and the chat history. So if you have a super long chat history, like one way I think to manage the credit spend would be to just start a new chat. And sometimes that is even what the more pro authors are doing. Starting a new chat could help manage your credit spend. It can also reset the clear all of the context in your chat with co-writer, which is helpful sometimes if you're in a brainstorming mode as an author, because if co-writer let's say for example, I initially named this story something else. I initially named this story like Sunset Boulevard, which is for this example's sake. And then co-writer thinks, okay, this project's named Sunset Boulevard. But as I go along, I decided like, no, I want to change that name to something else. But co-writer, because it's taking in the context of the chat history, thinks it's that previous title. I would just go ahead and start a new chat. And starting a new chat, if I have a super long chat, that might add up some credits, and then I free up that credits, and it also will clear the context of that previous chat history. Just reading the comments here. Okay. Are there any other questions I could answer? And I think next week I'm going to put up on the calendar, we're going to talk more about context management. We're going to talk about choosing a model and sort of the thought process that goes into this window here. And I think I'm going to do an even another session around the tools, which is another powerful AI feature that Macaroni asked about at the beginning of the chat. Um, that was a good question. But this should, so if we keep using co-writer like this, we keep going back and forth between brainstorming, refining, asking it to create these documents for us, these story foundations, this sets us up to be able to start writing our book. So we already have the premise, and then I would start going in and creating characters from the premise, creating my character profiles. Um, we could, yeah, if you, um, and then depending on where everyone's at, we can go into more depth about what makes a great character profile. What is sort of the prompt that I can use to get out a good response from co-writer to get a character profile? What makes a good outline? Different genres have different sort of the craft of creating that genre has a different structure to it. So Celine says, thank you. These sessions are filling in the gaps in my use on a need to know approach. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. I hope these are helpful. If you have any suggestions for future topics to cover, please email us or please let me know. I'd happy to get those put on the calendar. And again, I'm going to drop a link to the calendar in here. Let me just grab it. Let's see here. Okay, here's another link to our calendar. Again, keep an eye out. We'll be updating it soon with classes for next week as well. So thank you again so much for your time, and hope everyone has a great rest of their day and rest of their weekend. Happy writing. Keep us updated on how your projects are going, and hope to see you